it might be beneficial to see this information in a different way. And I like this, but I always think this is 2D. And then if I want to think 3D, like over a time scale, because this is now or relatively recently. But if I want to see where this is going, maybe this was something we could have prevented because we saw these things ticking up.
Yes.
For that, we have another tool we put in here, performance analysis, which we affectionately internally call PerfStack. And it is by and far my favorite thing that we have done probably in the past several years. And it really leverages that I'm not stuck in my silo.
Yes.
I can bring in anything to a view because it'll probably make a difference.
Well, and not only that, but this gives a lot of really good information and you can troubleshoot a lot of problems with it.
Yeah, this is now. Yeah.
But sometimes you need other data. And I've had a lot of customers I've worked with over the years. Well, can I add this to it? Can I add this to it? You can't add anything to this. But what you need essentially is a virtual whiteboard where you can just throw anything in it that you want.
And one that you can share.
Yeah.
So if we start, we know there's a problem sourced somewhere with this Azure server. So building a completely empty performance analysis, we can use that as our root. So we'll go ahead and add that.
So I love this tool because all of us have been in a situation where you're like, okay, we don't really know what's going on, or we have an idea what's going on, but I need to take this person, this person, this person, and let's throw them in a room with a whiteboard and say, just start spitballing it, right? And we've all done it. And this tool is kind of the hybrid cloud observability way of doing that. And it's a tool that's collaborative and then you can also share. You can put your pieces in and say, I saw this, and you pass it to the next person and they open it up and they add their pieces. So it's a very collaborative tool in that regard. Yeah,
and I like it because not only can you do that, if you find something you run into frequently, then you can save it, put it onto a dashboard, keep it there basically in perpetuity. So if we just start here, and I'm just going to pull in the absolute dumbest metrics, CPU and average percent memory. We know that this is probably not the problem on this, but this is always a good baseline. So yeah, not super interesting. I mean, we have a spike in CPU, but it's normal. CPU. That's what computers are supposed to do.
That's CPU.
Yeah. So, but the thing about this that I love so much is that it has that relationship knowledge built in. So if I go all the way back over yonder, this is our node. I want to say, show me everything that's related. One click. I remember doing this not just in the SolarWinds tool, but doing it in VMware's tool and doing it in EMC's tool and all these tools. And you're constantly right click, open a new window. Or in those ways, it was new window, not new tab.
Right.
And you would just do it over and over again until you had 100 small graphs that weren't on the same time scale. And you're trying to figure out where the blips were.
Yes.
And this just gets rid of all of that. I mean, look at the amount of things that we know that are part of this particular server.
Well, and that's a really good example too of hybrid cloud observability because again, you're pulling in all of these metrics that you may not have thought, I didn't even think about that, but that could actually be something that I need to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I completely forgot that Active Directory is a critical part of this. I know it is. In my head, my logical brain knows, that's how you log in, but I forgot when I was troubleshooting.
Yeah.
In the heat of the moment, it was gone.
Yeah.
But it's all here for me to work with. And the stuff I like is you can bring in relatively important information, like you can bring in other nodes, which is fine, but I almost always start diving down into the kind of application layers.
Yeah.
And I'm actually kind of a jerk because I almost always go down to databases, again, to rule things out and say, is this a database problem? I mean, it's not great. So there were some spikes. They don't seem to be happening right now because obviously right now it's on the right-hand side, but it's still not great.
It isn't. And here's an interesting thing too, is as you bring more metrics in, are those spikes correlating with other spikes?
Exactly. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, this is a Windows service running in Windows Web. So that's IIS. But man, look at all the metrics. Now I can take this and drag it right over here and get everything. So we'll look at stats and alerts. So let's see if anything is triggering an alert. Wow. Okay, so there are many problems here. This is obviously telling us we've got alerts coming from IIS. We've got HTTP binding and alert me when an application goes down. Okay, so these are basically just 3 slightly different flavors of the same kind of alert. Because this is our public demo, we have all of these alerts turned on because we want everyone to be able to see what they look like. But
The correlation is interesting though, too.
Yeah, I'm noticing that. It's especially with the SQL wait times.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah. So these are things you don't get even in the app stack view. Because right now, in this right-hand rail, that SQL server is running with virtually no wait time. But what was causing it? And I think I like stuff in this area because let's say we did find some type of correlation. We can backtrack that, highlight the section, and this little data explorer thing pops up. And for the longest time when this feature was released, I didn't even know that tab existed. Because I was so busy just adding stuff and finding all the relationships and find the things that connect to this and find the ones that connect to that. And I was just overwhelmed that we could bring the information in. But being able to actually see this information and say, oh, this is what's happening in this time slice.
Especially when you get things like alerts, but what my brain goes to just having my experience is any kind of configuration change.
Yeah, if we're talking the network side and also
or
the
even
server
on the
side.
server. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, someone may have gone in and mucked around in the config.web and then all of a sudden it's gone. Or sorry, the web.config.
To put that right in here, I mean, sure, we're looking at pulled metrics. Now all of a sudden you're seeing a config file change. I mean, to correlate all of that. Yeah. To correlate all that in a single view is pretty impressive, actually.